Hi, welcome back to Keep It Dirty, a podcast where my guests share their life living functionally and sustainably, and the why behind how they are navigating through our ever changing environment. So today, it is my pleasure to introduce to you Aaron Bulkley. He is a professional hunter and safari outfitter with nearly 2 decades of experience hunting across the United States, Africa, and abroad. He owns and operates Africa Hunt Lodge, helping hunters experience Africa the right way, ethically, professionally, and authentically. He currently resides in both the Texas Hill Country with his wife and 2 daughters, and spends half of the year at his five-star lodge, Kudu Valley Safari Lodge near Tabazimbi, South Africa. So it's a pleasure to have you, and
Thank you
a
for
little
having me.
trying to get back in the swing of the podcasting, but it was kind of interesting how we met through just online. And I just loved what you were just speaking into and what you do. It's such a unique niche. So I'd love to hear more about your passion and your perseverance, and how did you get into what you're doing today?
Sure. So in 2008, I had a very much different lifestyle. I was doing international sports marketing, and my wife and I decided we wanted to raise a family and do something totally different. So took a shot in the dark at the worst time ever, 2008, to start a business and started a company called Texas Hunt Lodge. And in about 15 years, or 10 to 15 years, we grew it into the largest hunting operation in the world. We had 1,500 to 2,000 clients that we hosted every year, through a lodge that we built with blood, sweat, and tears, our own hands in Texas on the Guadalupe River. I don't know if you heard about the floods on July 4th, but that is exactly where that was. So the whole community now has just been devastated. They're rebuilding now, and it's great. But anyway, I sold Texas Hunt Lodge 2.5 years ago, and now I'm solely focusing on Africa Hunt Lodge. Um, so we actually started Africa Hunt Lodge in 2010, 2 years after I started kind of my hunting career professionally. And yeah, we started off with maybe 20, 30 clients a year. And these days we're up to about 150 to 300 clients a year, just depending on the year. This year's looking great, probably another 350 booked this year. Photo safari and hunting. So we've kind of branched out and we're doing both now. A lot of folks aren't into hunting, but we want to show them Africa and show them our conservation efforts and come visit the orphanages that we support and get to know these kids and give back to the communities. And we're going to show you elephants and rhinos and giraffes and all the national parks and Cape Town and all that Africa has to offer.
That's beautiful. I went to school with a handful of people from Cape Town, and just really good people. And I just wanted to ask you about, how did you get involved in this? Is it something that you grew up around wildlife? Because what an amazing opportunity for your children to have such an
Sure.
unusual, way to be raised, and just having that respect for animals and wildlife.
Right. I wasn't raised around hunting, particularly. Growing up in this part of Texas, we might go out and go for a whitetail once a year just to stock the freezer with, or do some dove hunting with your buddies, which is a totally different deal. It's an afternoon of sitting on a cooler of beer and shooting a shotgun, but
Mhm.
it was always hunting for food, and it was never about the trophy, or anything even close to that. It's always been about sustenance and giving back to the family, well, as well as getting in the outdoors and enjoying it with your friends and family.
Mhm.
And at the end of the day, I just wanted to focus on something that I enjoy. If you're going to grow a business and be successful at it, I really hope that you enjoy it. And that's what I tell entrepreneurs today is, if you don't believe 100% in what you're doing and eat it and sleep it and dream it, you're not going to do well at it. So that was the whole premise of of starting a business with something I like. And yes, my kids, I have a 16-year-old and an 11-year-old daughter, and they've been raised in this environment, and they've been hunting since they were about 4 years old. And we don't buy hamburger beef at the store. We eat whatever's in our freezer, whether it's whitetail or a nilgai or some exotic species that we've harvested. In Africa, we do the same. And and we have a lot more people to feed in Africa. So a lot of our clients, I'd say all of the meat from our clients, harvested animals in Africa, is supporting directly those locals, whether they work for us or the churches nearby or the orphanages we support. So we do support 2 orphanages in Africa.
Wow, that's amazing. Did you ever think when you first started this that it would have grown and evolved into this and supporting, you know, different.
Yeah,
So,
no, I had no idea. Yeah, so at the
well,
end of the day, is now I think we probably have 30 employees in South Africa that make above average income for South Africa. And that's I'm proud to say that. What we can give them time off at the holidays to be with their families, and we just gave them all Christmas bonuses, and that's something that's not normal in the African culture to do that kind of thing. And I'm proud to say that we were able to do that this year. And now we're gearing up for another GoFundMe round for one of our orphanages in Victoria Falls.
mm,
Yeah, and we've had great success this year trying to ramp them up and help them become self-sufficient, where they don't just rely on donations all the time. So yeah, that's a fun deal. So yeah, some great things in store this year.
wow. It's interesting because I am a firm believer. I just started being a health advocate for an essential oil company, but they give back to the community. And they're very hands on all of the herbs. Everything is overseen by people from all over the world, and they give back. I think it's called Healing Hands. And
Hmm.
they educate and empower people to really take hold of being an advocate for their health and wellness. So when it comes to something like that, thank you for all that you're doing, because I think that's amazing. And we need more people like that in our world. And so I do believe that it was like a law of attraction. It was crazy how we kind of met on just me asking you a question on someone with YouTube and
Right.
followers. And we started speaking. And I thought it was just really an interesting your profession. And when you're right, when you're passionate and your heart is in it, I mean, we have only one life to live. So go for it and find that, and things will start. I believe things start falling into place. So, and that would be something that has always been, I've been always so appreciative of the wildlife and Mother Earth. And obviously that's what I speak into. But I'd love to do a safari. How has it changed with restrictions and guidelines, and just globally what's going on for the safety of you and the people that are around you and what you
Right.
do?
Well, you've heard maybe in the media quite a bit lately about Trump and Ramaphosa. They had a big blowout meeting. I guess it was last August or July
Yeah.
in the White House, where he surprised him, and he had the president there, and some Ernie Els and some other golfers, and he caught him totally off guard and said, "Look, your country's not a great place to live in. It's racist. You're killing white farmers, and you're not
Mhm.
recognizing it." That I think for South Africa, for all the outfitters, that actually hurt them a little bit. Everyone saw cancellations, just just
Yeah,
the talk of that. Now the
sure.
truth of it is, nothing has changed in 20 years that I've been heading to Africa. It's just like you just don't go to the wrong places.
Mhm.
If I'm a tourist, I'm not going to the south side of Chicago. At night, that kind of thing. And South Africa is the same. Where we are, we're in the Bushveld, we call it, in the mountains. The people are nice as can be. They're beautiful. They're kind. I've taken my kids and my wife, three blonde hair, blue eyed girls, with no gun or anything to protect myself. I've driven all over the country with them, but we don't go in shady places at night. We want to start driving in the morning when the sun's up and follow the traffic laws and be aware of your surroundings. It's just like anywhere else in the world. But that meeting that Trump and Ramaphosa had, I mean, that kind of put it on the global stage. And I think we saw two or three cancellations, but I know a lot of people in my industry saw 30-40% cancellations just because of that. And now they're trying to rebuild. But we've
Mm,
been on the forefront through email marketing, social media, saying, "Hey guys, this is no different than anywhere else in the world." I've been to a lot more dangerous places than South Africa, and Africa and in general. South Africa is a very safe place to be.
mhm.
I love it. I encourage everyone to visit. It's a place where, look, you can book hotels on hotels.com. You can book wine visits, you can book Uber. They take credit cards. You're not going to get that in a lot of places in the world at the end of the day, especially
Yeah.
with the wildlife and the
Well,
atmosphere that South Africa provides. But no, it is very much accommodating to tourists, and I think they're going to see quite a climb in business tourism this next year. Like I said, it's just that one meeting kind of did set it back on the world stage for a little bit.
mhm. Yeah, it's interesting because we all know, unfortunately, Jane Goodall just died recently. And I watched the documentary. And
Mm.
as a little girl, I used to sit with my father and watch Mutual Omaha, the wildlife. And it's just so fascinating how, when you respect the animals and doing Reiki and energy work, I'm very tapped in to animals and just my surrounding. And it's great that the next generation, my sons are very tapped into that and respectful and used to muck stalls and up at we have a lot of horse farms where we live in eastern Pennsylvania, a lot of hunting, respect for the gun, knowing how to shoot and take care of it, and so that's our world. We grew up with that. So I know there's a lot of controversy and this and that, but um, we just go back to where we were hundreds of years ago and living off the land.
Sure.
And we were just talking about going on vacation somewhere, and what an amazing opportunity that would be. So
Sure.
at the end of this, you definitely have to give all your information. So what's the one experience like that would stand out when you had a group of people that was just an amazing moment? I'm sure there's a lot, but what was that one moment where you were like, this is why we're living. This is what life's all about.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just one experience, but I can tell you about some safaris I've been on in
Yeah.
Zimbabwe, with elephants, where, very controversial subject, hunting elephants,
Sure.
but the truth is they're overrun with them in Zimbabwe, Botswana. There are too many elephants for what they have for them to feed on. There's not enough trees and not enough leaves and not enough water. There are way more elephants today than there were 100 years ago, they say in some areas. So we're on an elephant hunt, I guess maybe 10 years ago. I didn't see a bull elephant that I could harvest in 5 or 6 days. I saw females. I saw maybe the lead bull in the group. That's not what we were after. We were looking for a management bull, something that needed to be taken out of the herd. So we were actually looking for a big group of bachelor bulls. This was not a trophy hunt. This was a hunt. It was called a quota or ration elephant. So all the meat goes to that communal village, even the tusks, the
Mm.
ivory, so that hopefully they can legally resell and make some money. So I didn't see a person. I didn't see an elephant for days. And we're driving 150 miles through Wanky National Park area. And and then finally, I don't know, maybe 4 o'clock, one of my last days, here we go. And it happened so quick. I wasn't able to get set up on sticks or anything. It was a freehand shot at 60 yards. But after 5 days of looking and going from 4 a.m. until 7, 8 p.m. every night, I was ready. We humanely put this elephant down, one shot. And then about 45 minutes later, we didn't call anyone. We just had this one shot go off in the bush in the middle of nowhere. Over
Mm.
200 people showed up. It's like they knew we were there. We didn't know they were there. They were out of sight, out of mind. We had no idea they were there or where they were coming from. But they all came with machetes, pitchforks, axes,
Mhm.
knives, and they just started harvesting this elephant. And you had ladies with, no brasiers on, no bras, no shirts,
Yeah.
but had babies and weave baskets on their back. And they're chopping it up, some meat, and then they would start a little fire under a tree and start smoking it right there on the spot. My only regret on that was not having a camera set up on like slow mo or something. That would have been so cool to
Amazing.
but I just, we it was late in the day. We weren't prepared. I had no idea that this was going to happen. And it was a really amazing experience. And
I,
like I said, all of that elephant fed 200 families for a month.
well,
And
that's
the money that I paid went to
yeah.
conservation. And when I say conservation, elephant conservation, that money went to the government and to parks and resources there in Zimbabwe, so they can hire more anti-poaching guides and they can
Mm.
invest in cameras and motion detectors and the cameras are a big deal in South Africa. You'll see them at intersections side of the roads. It's to watch the anti-poachers and where they're going at night. It's not to watch private citizens or tourists.
Worth
It's
approaching.
anti-poaching efforts. Well, it costs money and Wi-Fi is expensive. And fortunately, we just got Starlink in Zimbabwe,
Mm.
and that's helped out a lot. But yeah, so all of that money that hunters spend, even on these big game animals, whether it's leopard, lion, hippo, croc, there are a considerable amount of those fees are going to anti-poaching efforts. Yeah.
Yeah. And if it would have been really amazing. Yes. I mean, just I'm getting goosebumps with you telling me about how tapped in, and they knew, like with that one shot, what was going on. And I
Yeah,
think our society is so jaded. We're just so, technology and just go, go, go. We can't live in a bubble. Obviously, we have to integrate technology, but the thing is just going back to like what you're doing and educating people, not like, oh my gosh, they're killing. Well, you need to eat, they need to live and survive, and this is way it was for hundreds and years. So it's like,
sure.
why? So yeah, but I
Well, the
love.
Zimbabwe government understands that. They
Yeah.
give each communal area, which communal is another word for tribal. Okay, so they give
Okay.
every communal area. Let's say this communal area is 5,000 acres, right? They give every tribe or every communal area so many elephants a year that they can sell to outfitters and foreign hunters that they get the meat from, and that's part of their sustenance. That's part of the plan with Zimbabwe feeding their people. They know they're a poor country. They know these people can't go out and buy this meat and food, and you can't raise enough cattle when there's no grass. So this is part of their sustenance and part of the plan for the country, which I don't think a lot of folks know about.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing. We need to get your voice out there. We need to get that to educate everyone to understand and respect and
Mm.
appreciate all that you're doing and the survival. We're so used to programmed to go into a supermarket, buy this, but I love being able to talk to all of the community that are farmers that, that will, I physically go and I tell them what cut meat what I would like. And we have a rapport. And
Sure.
so and they had I don't know what is it, clearing like deer. There's an influx of too many deer where we live in a forest. So people say, oh, but why would they do that? But in the long run, it's doing good. Just people always just think, oh, that's so terrible, but there's a method to the madness, and they've been, this is, so maybe you could speak into that a little bit more so people can understand what you were
As far
talking.
as far as like the sustainability and the conservation
Yeah,
and culling of animals,
yeah,
well, you
that's
only
really
have so much
fascinating.
land. Yeah,
Yeah.
you only have so much land, and there's only so much feed out there.
Okay.
Whether it's Pennsylvania or my area of Texas, we're
Mhm.
overrun with whitetail. And not only whitetail, but we have exotics. We have axis deer that were imported from India in the 1940s, 20s to 40s, and they were imported to these exotic ranches. And now they've gotten out. Well, you have two different species of deer, looking for the same feed. Well, that's just there's not enough. And I would say almost every person that lives in my community in a 2 or 3 year period, you will hit a deer on the road. There are too many deer here,
Yeah.
So that's a problem. It's a safety issue for
Yeah, I've
one.
gotten
There's
hit.
not enough. There's not enough feed. In hunting, at the end of the day, I think it's a humane way.
Mhm.
And in outdoors, getting outdoors and spending it with your family and friends, as well. But to put food on the table,
Absolutely.
there's a season for it. We're not doing this during mating season. We're not
Mhm.
denying any females from having their babies and shooting Bambi from its mom and dad. This hunting season occurs during the rut area, and this is worldwide. Typically, this is a rule that happens worldwide. You're not going to go hunting when babies are being born or when they're in infancy stages. And we're not after the babies. We're after the older, more mature, past their prime, members of the species, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
If you're looking for a hippo, you go to the Zambezi Valley, Zambezi River between Zambia and Zimbabwe, you're going to see 5,000 hippos in a couple of days. There's way too many hippos, and the only way to get a hippo out is to shoot it or harvest it, and at the end of the day, they're on the shore, they're destroying farmers' crops, and they're, and I don't know if you heard, but the hippo kills more people than any other animal in Africa, other than the mosquito, which causes malaria, right? But a hippo, at the end of the day, is a herbivore, but they will attack you if you catch them on land. They will crunch you up, and then the crocodiles will come in and finish you. But the hippo is the most dangerous animal and kills more people than any other animal in Africa.
Oh my God.
And then you have all these poor Zambians and Zimbabweans living along the river because that's where they get their water. That's where they do the laundry. That's where they get their fish, catch their fish to feed their families and farm along. They need to be along the river to irrigate their crops. So yeah, dangerous place to live. But that's probably a good example of where you need to take out some too many. There's too many hippos there. You know,
Yeah.
there are a lot of crocs as well, but not so many people are looking to shoot and eat crocodile. But a hippo, you know, when I was there, they didn't have one word for hippo meat versus elephant meat versus rhino meat. It was called protein in their language, and that's all they cared about was the
That's
protein. Yeah.
amazing.
So you know that's one example of taking. You need to cull the animals. You need to keep their population at a certain level,
Mhm.
just for the safety of the people, and to provide meat to the community. And
Sure.
back to the deer in the hill country, what a great healthy meat venison is at the end of the day. Very little fat.
Hmm.
It's just so practical. There's not a lot of waste to the animal. If you're not getting steaks, you can make burger out of it. You can make sausage out of it. You can make jerky built on what. There's so much to do with that. In my family, we love spaghetti. We love Mexican food. We love Italian. Well, that goes a long way in my house. Every aspect of that animal.
Wow. I just know growing up and then just hacking out, there's a lot of Lancaster is not that far. There's a lot of fields. We have a lot of Amish. So we'll go there and then they'll just they'll like, which chicken do you want? So
Mm.
it's a great experience. But, respecting also during deer season hunting, I wear my orange vest and there's certain trails, but the, the animals, well, the horses are so used to hearing that. They're like, okay, hunting season, it's all good.
Yeah.
So I think it's foreign to a lot of people, especially if you don't grow up on the countryside or if you're in the city. And so, are there organizations, and I guess, because I did my diligence and did research on this, but to have, people that can like educate others to like, hey, we need to survive, we need to eat, we need to, how can we support communities like that? That's probably my
Well,
question.
yeah, I mean, organizations, there are some global and a lot of United States organizations. Safari Club International is probably the leading
Okay.
hunting and conservation organization in the world. They
Hmm.
have chapters all over the world that are comprised of hunters and conservationists and outdoorsmen, fishermen as well, not just hunting. But their big banquet's coming up February 19th in Nashville. I go every year. I think 2 years ago they had record attendance of over 60,000 people in a 3 or 4 day weekend. And Nashville's a fun place to go where everyone gets together. And there's
Yeah.
thousands of exhibitors there from fishing, hunting, whitewater rafting, rifle makers, and all the fishing equipment and scopes and optics. And it really is an outdoorsman's paradise show to go to. And then you have shows all over the United States. One in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. It's a 10-day outdoor show that's coming up, I think, this month or next month. Sheep Show in Reno, Dallas Safari Club, Texas Trophy Hunter Show is this weekend in Dallas. So, I mean, yeah, I hit them all. I know all about them, and I have a lot of history with those shows where I exhibited back in the day. We don't exhibit at them anymore. We have enough clients. Fortunately, I don't have to spend the money to go to the shows, but I will go as an attendee and just visit with repeat clients and former clients. But
Yeah.
yeah, so there's a lot of resources there, and all these organizations have an education fund and an education program and a
Okay.
conservation program and a way to give back. I remember a program I was involved with Safari Club years ago. We actually had local teachers that we would send to an outdoors conservation camp in Montana every year. And we
Wow.
would take our local teachers, and we would fund maybe it was 4,000 per teacher, but we try to send 2 or 3 teachers every year so that they can directly come back home and impact the community and the kids,
Yeah.
and tell them about it. And it's not just hunting again; it was outdoors, but it
Sure.
has to do with hunting, fishing, survivalism, whatever it may be, conservation. Yeah,
So I guess a lot of those funds were unfortunately cut. I mean, I'm hoping that they could, you know,
these aren't this wasn't taxpayer money. This is
okay.
privately
Yeah.
raised
I,
funds. Yeah, we
yeah.
would
But
we would
how
host
solid.
auctions. Yeah,
Yeah.
so myself as well as other outfitters, we would donate hunts or packages or
Hmm.
fishing trips, have
Okay.
one big banquet, and people would come in and bid hundreds or thousands of dollars on these packages, and that's how we would raise our money. Yeah,
That's awesome. That's great.
yeah,
I mean, I'd love to be a kid in a candy store and do that, but I guess I'd have to go on one of your trips to really get the full gist of
that,
everything. And
that would be nice.
do you teach everybody how to like be able to like do everything from prepping and, getting the meat ready, and my jargon for this is very little. So, but just
What?
getting it ready and
Yeah, look, we will do whatever our clients ask at the end of the day. We're
okay,
very, every client's different. Some clients, they want to just, hey, let's go harvest the animal and take photos, and then
yeah,
that's it. Right. And then you have other clients that, all right, I want to follow this process. I want to watch these professional skinners skin this the right way.
mhm,
I want to see the skin soaking so I can get my hides later to, whatever they want to do with them
that'd
to
be
take home.
fascinating. Yeah,
Then they want to see how the animal's broken down. They want to
yeah,
see how we cool the animal and why are we cooling this animal in a cold environment, like in a cooler, walk-in
hmm
cooler for 7 days. And I explain it. You really need to let that cell structure of the meat break down so it's not like chewing shoe leather. You got to let that meat age a bit. We've had sausage making classes trying to, we teach people how to create or how to make their own traditional boerewors, which is like a hunting sausage in South Africa that's very popular. But yeah, we're all about that. And we wish more of our clients, I guess, at the end of the day would want to do that. But it's some people have 5, 7 days with us in Africa and we might get 10, 20 minutes of what you and I were just what you were asking about, of the actual processing.
very
But
cool.
no. Yeah.
Well, the more and more you're sharing with me, the more I'm like, you know what? There's a reason why I put that energy out there. Like, I want to go
Mm,
somewhere so different and have my kids experience, because I used to experience so many things from having a father that would travel and take us around the world, and just that respect. I think it's something that I always took for granted, respect of other cultures and seeing what went on with people that had nothing, and we just here in the States, we just took it for granted that we have a roof over our head, we have food, we just have everything at our beck and call. Yeah, so that's and your children, my gosh, all that they're learning and absorbing. I mean, now you say you have the 16-year-old, so it's not like you have little ones anymore.
right.
So is he hunting and actively doing all of that?
Yeah, so they're
Oh,
both
I'm
girls.
sorry, two
Yeah,
girls.
yeah. I
That's
have two
awesome.
girls, and they hunt quite a bit. My oldest Viola, she won Youth Huntress of the World when she was 15 and at 13. So meaning as a youth huntress under 17 years old, she hunted more animals, I guess, that were recorded than
Mhm.
anyone else in the world. And she's got a big old belt buckle the size of her head, and a lot of recognition at the banquets, and so she's very active in it.
Yeah.
The 11-year-old, she's into archery and she's not into hunting yet. Just she wants
Okay.
to be she's a perfectionist. So she wants to make sure she's the best archer and hitting her targets just right before she gets into hunting. So she's asked me this next year if she wants to shoot an impala as her first animal, which are
Very
very common in our area in South
well.
Africa. And
hmm
at my lodge, Kudu Valley Safari Lodge, we probably have 3,000 impala. So, that's one of those animals that we do have to keep the numbers down. So we'll go and shoot, 40 or 50 females every year. So that's what she's into. That's what she liked to do. So put meat on the table and feed the employees and their families. And,
That's
and,
amazing.
when we go to visit an orphanage, my kids really like to go and they'll take that whole full skinned out carcass, throw it over their shoulder and walk into that orphanage. And that's going to feed that orphanage of like 30 kids for, 2 weeks. So
hmm
that makes them feel good.
The
That's kind of a
time.
nice activity. Yeah.
So, what's a day in the life of Aaron and his family? You're
Oh,
6 months in Texas, 6 months you go to South Africa. And does your wife homeschool your two daughters, or what
yeah.
is a day
No.
in life?
So my wife's a school teacher at Hunt School. There's
Okay.
200 kids in elementary through middle school. So each class is like 20, 25 students, but she's a math teacher there. I have a daughter in the 5th grade. She goes to school there.
hmm
And then my other daughter's a sophomore, and she's a cheerleader and plays tennis and
It's awesome.
yeah, yeah. FFA, she's all into animals and Future Farmers of America, and she competes and does things with that. But so when they get out of school, end of May, we will go to South Africa for 7 or 8 weeks, and that's their summer vacation, and that's my busy time. So that works out great. And those kids, they enjoy hanging out with the clients, making new friends. Last year, my youngest, Bailey, she had archery competition with another little boy that was visiting with his dad from Florida. and they became the best of friends there in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
But they like to go out and help feed the animals with the staff in the morning, hang out with the chef, my chef LG, and help him prepare different things. They like teaching them how to make Mexican food because that's not happening in South Africa. So they're rolling out tortillas and making enchiladas and things. So it's just kind of
Wow.
fun.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and just just being part of that African culture. And I'll tell you, it's so cheap to live in South Africa on
Mm-hmm.
American dollars. Okay, it's as far as my kids, they're girls at the end of the day. They love getting their nails done. You can do it for $6 in South Africa. So I never tell them no. I'm like, yeah, all right, once a week, whatever you want to do, go get your
Not
nails
when we
done.
get back to the States. That's a whole different
Right?
thing.
Yeah, it's not $70, it's six.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
We have a good friend whose father is from Badwa, which
Mm,
is in Africa. So I think I don't know if it's in South Africa, but he has a book that he wrote about the struggles of not ever knowing if he'd be able to have an education and all the sacrifices his parents made to get him
mm,
to England to study. But just talking about sanitation back in the 70s was just terrible. Talking about how they had to walk for miles and miles to get water, something that we would never even think that would be, an issue. So it's very interesting.
mm.
Sorry about that. But yeah, it just was an eye opening experience to read his story. Just, he's such a grounded individual, high achieving. His kids, the next generation, went to school, and one is a doctor. And what he came from, I had a little taste of that with a family growing up in Italy with nothing, and we're first generation, and
Yeah,
so it's kind of in a awkward revolve, but it definitely, you have to be humble, and you have to know where your roots come from. But just what you're doing really is so amazing and impactful. So for people that want to reach out and, connect, what is your website? How can people reach out to you?
sure, sure. So on the hunting side, africahuntlodge.com, email info@africahuntlodge.com. Photo safari side, kuduvalley.com, KUDU valley.com, or info@kudu valley. But I've got videos on the website, whether they're 2-minute panoramic and showing you videos of wildlife to the actual hunting to 10-minute videos. We have a YouTube channel at Africa Hunt Lodge. So, there's probably, I don't know, maybe 50 videos on that. But yeah, so lots of ways to get a hold of us, and I'm always available. I'm on mobile and WhatsApp. I answer the phone whether I'm in Africa or in Texas, and emails always. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm very accessible.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I didn't know if I'd ever hear from you or anything when I reached out to you, thinking this Aaron would be an amazing guest because I'm so passionate about Mother Earth. But what you're doing is so interesting, and it's something that I'm not very well versed in, obviously. But you've opened my eyes to a lot. And the one question I do ask all my guests at the end
Mm.
is, do you have any type of special hobbies or something that you love to do other than hunting that most people don't know about you, or you don't
Oh,
want
it's no, no. I have plenty. You know, I guess the easy answer is fishing. I actually fish more personally than I do hunt now. So
to?
I
Oh,
was
very cool.
in Thursday. I'm going ice fishing in Minnesota.
Wow.
A week ago, I was fishing in the Gulf of Mexico with my oldest daughter, catching red snapper and redfish. 3 weeks ago, I was in Costa Rica. So yeah, I love fishing, and that's what I do in my spare time. It's not hunting, but and it's not something that I push clients on. So I guess that's my main hobby is getting out and spending that time with my kids. So it's important. They love fishing with dad. So
That's wonderful. I love what all that you've instilled in them, and they're so lucky to be able to experience everything they have. And like I said, this was such a pleasure to have you on my
well, thank
podcast.
you.
Yeah, and we'll definitely connect, because something that I would love to do, and my family would be so into this. So having three boys, and they love all that. But
Awesome.
will they want to reach out to you? Can you just give your website one more time?
Yeah, www.africahuntlodge.com. huntlodge.com or www.kuduvalley.com.
Very cool. Well, thank you, Aaron. This was
I
definitely a
appreciate you.
wonderful experience interviewing you. And to all my viewers and listeners, just remember to get out there, ground with Mother Earth, and keep it dirty.